Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to, oh my God, I can't believe I came up with another top 10 list. It was staring me right in the face. That's right, my top 10 with a couple honorable mentions. Wandering Monsters. This wasn't even the Wandering Monster video I was planning on doing, so consider this a prelude to things to come for next week. I have some other thoughts, but I just thought it would be fun to share with you the monsters I like throwing at my parties the most, or like every campaign I've had these on a checklist, and you can ask people like Omen and Off Grid and a few others. I've definitely used these maybe only once for each adventuring party, but I definitely use them at least once. So starting off, I got 3 honorable mentions and 2 special Arduin additions to this, even though it looked like it was going to be just an AD&D video. For me, AD&D would not be complete without Arduin. I love Arduin. So right off at the bottom of the top of my honorable mentions is the Trapper and the Lurker. The way they can potentially off the characters is so gruesome and so ironic, because if you're not careful, it could be your own buddies that are stabbing you to death, while the Trapper or Lurker crushes you and suffocates you. I know it's cruel and sadistic, but on to my number 2 favorite honorable mentions. Those are good old-fashioned Sturges. They just don't get enough love. They're ugly. They're nasty. What they do is disgusting. Killing them is even gross beyond words, because then you get yours or your buddy's slurped up blood all over you. They just reek of absolute horror. And you guys all know I'm a big fan of that. So they're there, which probably you're thinking, oh my God, how could it get worse? Well, it can get worse because my other honorable mention is the lowly, forgotten, underrepresented, and the underused and underappreciated good old-fashioned Piercer. When you think half to a third of all the underground adventures are filled with stalactites, or are they stalagmites? I think they're stalactites, just waiting to rain down on you with their just weird alien vibe of being these suicide guided missiles that will just rain down on you and stab you in the shoulder or in the head, and then try to eat you. And then if not, they just sit there and try to crawl back slowly up the wall back to their home. They're just insidious and hysterical at the same time. So those are my honorable mentions. And I put this one at 10 because it's not an honorable mention. It's in honor of Conan. The giant slug is something I always throw at an early level party, just because it's so alien, and the story, I forget which one it was, I should have looked it up, where Conan has to fight the giant slug, and it's not with his sword, it's not with his fists. He has to push part of a building down on it to stop it in its tracks and keep it from, spitting its burning acid, which I don't know if slugs really do, but it was a nice touch on Robert E. Howard to throw that in there. And one of these could be more than a match for a party. And the funny thing is in Robert E. Howard's version, these things were fast as lightning. They were just like it was just zipping around, chasing poor Conan around the ruins of that building. I'm always going to use it. If you haven't run into one and you're in one of my parties, when you least expect it. Well, actually, if you're ever in ruins and it's like a castle or a city and it's abandoned, just look around for the little silvery trail and you'll know what's coming. Up at number 9 is the overused but glorious gelatinous cube, and if you throw a skeleton inside it with some sort of glowy magic weapon, so it's the skeleton's like, floating in the gelatinous cube, and maybe there's a glowing magic sword, so it slowly looks like you got some sort of undead floating toward the party. I like using that on a really low level beginner player party, just to mess with them and play with them a little, so that the cleric's like, my turn undead's not working. I rolled a 19. Oh no, we better run. Yeah, you better run because it's going to slurp you up, and then you'll be 2 skeletons in the gelatinous cube. Number 8. There's something about these guys that are so creepy and so terrifying. Maybe it's the movie Descent, or maybe it's Red Nails, but the Grimlocks, they just want to eat you. You can't negotiate with them. You can't talk with them. You can't work a deal. You can't scare them. They want to eat you. They plan on eating you. And if 100 or so of them have to die so that the guys in the back get a free lunch, it's going to happen. So they're just, maybe it's the artwork from the Fiend Folio. I don't know. I just really enjoy using them as a wandering monster. Coming in at number 7 is another one of my favorite monsters of all time that just doesn't get enough love, because when you finally see them, it's possibly way too late. Not the Medusa, but the Basilisk, turning one of your party members into a statue or a henchman or a hireling to let him know what's coming. Just because it's worse than a save or die. It's a save or now worry that you're going to die. Does that make any sense? Plus, they if you do find their lair, decent treasure somewhere buried around, where they nest. The greater basilisk, huge pain in the ass. But I just love the basilisk. It's that's why it's number 7. Number 6 is your basic, whatever your dungeon's full of, hobgoblins, ogres, whatever, guardsmen with halberds, because they get that reach with the weapon, the big nice D12 damage for the most part, I believe, and there's just something about, maybe it's the Wizard of Oz, the with the weird looking dudes with the halberds. I love that imagery of these organized dudes who know what they're doing, even if they're only one hit die, whatevers, but doing their guard duty around the dungeon, ready to blow a horn or scream or yell for more of them to come. It's just absolutely a lot of fun. Makes the players really think and be prepared and be careful. If they do manage to, take them out, now they've either got to be very, very careful, or maybe they can, take the uniforms and try to use them to sneak their way in, especially since they're going to be humanoids. And next at number 5, speaking of guards, the scariest guards of all time. If you've never run into them, you don't know what you're missing, or maybe you're just lucky. But Arduin's Doom Guards, imagine a gold filigreed suit of black magical full plate armor, walking around with a magical 2-handed sword in either hand, and able to use them like they're nothing. That can teleport randomly every round. So, like, you may be trying to beat up on one just to freaking finally get, nope, poof. They're just like, kind of like blinking, like the blink spell, where they're just randomly teleporting. So you're never getting a really good bead on one. And, there's a good 50% chance that one of them's going to teleport behind one of your buddies or you, and whoosh, whoosh, 2 smacks with 2-handed swords that are usually like +2, and you can't sleep them, you can't charm them, you can't even really melt them, because a fireball doesn't really do that, in my opinion. It takes a continuous long time of heat, so you basically have to smash them and just dismantle them for them to be overdone with. So you've got to do their full amount of hit points. Most spells just do damage, if anything, that do damage. But they tend to have, like 8 to 12 hit dice each, and they usually come in groups of 2 to 20. So yeah, they're kind of OP, and the word we used to use was gross, but there's nothing gross about them. They're just absolutely fabulous. Number 4 is something that takes a lot of work on the DM's part to really make it work, and if it works out, in their favor, you could be looking at a total party kill or such devastation that could be wrought against the party that they'll never be the same, and from that point on, they've got a group of enemies and a rivalry that is, of course, the adventuring party that just so happens to be in the same dungeon as them. And if you really tailor make them either opposite alignment or very similar, but role play it out and see what's going to happen. Sometimes it can change the whole story, where now you have these NPCs that are now their buddies, or you've got these NPCs that have now sworn revenge, or the party is going to someday get them back, kind of thing. The rivalry can be game changing. Coming in at number 3, the beginning of the absolute terror. The scariest thing you can encounter coming down a hallway, other than some of the previous mentions in the next 2, and even then, I think these in a way are far more terrifying, and that's air sharks. Another Arduin oldie but goodie. Imagine a great white shark that has the ability to more or less fly down the halls, or float or hover, at a decent clip, that will, just cruising down the dungeon corridor looking for something to eat, and they usually travel in packs or schools or whatever you call sharks. I think there's a pods, or I don't know, but you look down the corridor and there's 3 great white sharks just cruising at you, mouths open, ready to just gobble you up. And don't forget their skin is kind of scratchy and damagey, so if you're not really well protected, if they miss you and just clip by you, they could do a D6 or more of scrapey damage, which then sends them into a feeding frenzy because now you're bleeding and they're hungry. Oh, and did I mention, if you do manage to kill them, the gas bladder that's inside them blows up. Yeah, so a little mini fireball when you do finally kill them, a little parting gift. David was just a maniac. But yeah, take control of the lunch. Number 2, my namesake, good old fashioned shadows. You can literally start the panic train with these things. There's so many underhanded, sneaky tricks that these things, and all the other non-corporeals, can do, like waiting underground, and when the party comes up, grab your foot up, strength drain, which I really don't recommend trying that except on like a really advanced level party, which is one of the cool things about a lot of these creatures, is that you can throw them at varying levels. You don't have to go by the this is a 4th level monster. You can throw them at high level parties, because if you play them and use some strategy and some tactics, and the monster's innate cunning, a group of 5 or 6 shadows can really jack up a high level party. Maybe not kill anybody, but make them so weak that the next thing that comes along has got a much better chance of hurting them. And if you put them in the lair of a lich or a vampire or something like that, that's exactly what the big bad guy wants, is monsters that will not quite finish off its food, but tenderize it for him. Yeah. So number 1, I just threw these at a group a little while ago. They're only a 1 hit die, 1+1 hit die critter, like 1 to 20 numbering appearance, but I threw like 78 at the party. just because I knew they were just going to waste through them. But even if one gets through, one random 20-sided die that pops up a 20 and takes a little bite and a little nibble out of one of the PCs, and they lose that 1 to 4 permanent hit points, the reactions I've seen over the years has actually been really, really fun. Knowing full well they're not gonna kill the party. You know, they're just gonna whittle them down, and you know that's part of the whole process of the creatures that create dungeons that adventuring parties might go into, is to whittle down the adventuring parties the resources of hit points. When you can't heal them back, no matter what you do, makes the party think really, really hard about their next actions, which I believe that's what they're meant to do, is make the party think, we need to do something different to get past this next obstacle, because if we're not careful, it won't matter, that we've defeated them. We'll be so weakened that we will not, our careers are over. You get a fighter, a 10th level fighter that's been whittled down to like 13 hit points when he used to have like 80. His career's over. And that fear, that kind of fear, is one of the things that us dungeon masters feast on regularly, right? No. It's just, it is a little sadistic, but it is a little way to make the game a lot more challenging for the party, and make them really think about just rushing in to every combat when there are consequences that you can't just cure light wounds away or heal away, or extra healing potion. No. You better think. You better use your formations, use your shields, the whole bit to keep these things as far away from you as possible, especially the cleric and the magic user, for obvious reasons. But that's my top 10 list of wandering monsters that I like to throw at, nice shot, unsuspecting adventuring parties. Just for fun, I thought I'd share it with you, and some evil dungeon master opinions. But there you have it. I hope to see my friends who have their own channels play along with this one, because I'd like to see what they like to do when they're creating a dungeon from scratch, and what they like to throw in as wandering monsters besides your usual giant rats and skeletons and wights and things like that. The really cool things, and why. So that's what I've got for you this morning. I'll be back in about 45 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that, to do second breakfast. Look forward to chatting with all you guys again real soon. Until then, happy trails.